What if I told you that somewhere in the United States, behind locked steel doors and under the watch of private security cameras, a team of engineers and master craftsmen is turning a standard Cadillac into something that most people will never see in person, let alone understand how it was built? What if I told you that the process takes months, involves machinery so specialized it exists in only a handful of facilities on the entire planet, and produces a finished vehicle so extreme that its price tag crosses the threshold of $1 million? Not a Ferrari, not a Lamborghini, a Cadillac, stretched, armored, gilded in real gold, and engineered to carry heads of state, billionaires, and the kind of clients who never appear on any public list. This is not a showroom fantasy. This is a real production line, and today you are walking inside it. Most people see limousines gliding past and assume they came from some kind of factory, the same way a regular car does, rolling off an assembly line in a matter of hours. That assumption could not be more wrong. The vehicles you're about to see, built from the ground up, represent one of the most secretive and technically demanding manufacturing processes in the entire automotive world. The companies behind these builds operate under non-disclosure agreements with their clients. The workshops themselves are unmarked. The workers sign contracts that prevent them from discussing what happens inside, and yet the finished product still has to drive on public roads, pass DOT inspections, and survive conditions that would destroy a standard luxury vehicle. This is the contradiction at the heart of the ultra-limousine industry, and it is exactly what makes the process so extraordinary. The vehicle at the center of today's revelation is a $1 million Gold Cadillac Limousine. Not gold-painted, not gold-wrapped, real gold, applied through processes that most automotive journalists have never witnessed and most viewers have never seen documented in this kind of detail. From the moment a brand new Cadillac rolls into the conversion facility to the moment it exits as a rolling monument to excess and engineering, every single stage of its transformation is deliberate, expensive, and almost shockingly complex. The metal is cut, the frame is reinforced, the interior is gutted and rebuilt from scratch. And then, only after hundreds of man-hours have already been invested, does the gold work begin. We are talking about a machine that weighs more than a standard pickup truck, stretches well beyond the legal limit for unmodified vehicles, and is equipped with systems most people associate with military hardware rather than a night out in Las Vegas. Bulletproof glass, run-flat tires, independent air conditioning zones, satellite communication systems, a wet bar with refrigeration, a privacy partition made from laminated security glass. And underneath all of that, a chassis that has been surgically extended, reinforced with aircraft-grade steel and re-engineered to handle a load it was never designed to carry from the factory. This is the world you are entering today. A world of industrial secrecy, million-dollar decisions, and craftsmanship so precise that a single mistake on the cutting floor can cost tens of thousands of dollars and weeks of rework. If you have ever wondered what actually happens inside one of these facilities, what the machines look like, what the workers are doing at 3 in the morning when a deadline is approaching, and what it actually takes to build a vehicle that sells for more than most Americans will earn in a decade, then stay right here because you're about to find out. If this kind of content is what you have been looking for, drop the word gold in the comments right now and let us know you made it this far. And before we go any deeper into this factory floor, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to this channel with notifications turned on, because what comes next in this video is something most people in the automotive world have never seen documented like this before. This is not a review. This is not a test drive. This is the full build, from raw steel to rolling gold, and it starts right now. The process begins long before any cutting tool touches any metal. When a conversion order comes in for a vehicle of this caliber, the facility does not simply order a Cadillac from a dealership the way a regular customer would. They work directly with General Motors through a specialized commercial channel designed specifically for coach builders and conversion specialists. The vehicle arrives at the facility without interior trim panels, without rear seat assemblies, and in some cases without a completed roof structure, depending on the scope of the conversion. This is called a cutaway or incomplete vehicle, and it is the legal and logistical foundation upon which every stretch limousine in the world is built. When that incomplete Cadillac rolls through the facility's receiving bay, the first team to touch it is the measurement and documentation crew. Every dimension of the vehicle is logged with millimeter precision. Laser measuring tools scan the entire chassis and create a three-dimensional digital model that will serve as the master reference for the entire build. This is not optional. It is not a formality. Because no two vehicles from the factory are exactly identical down to the last millimeter, and when you are extending a frame by 8, 10, or even 12 feet, a deviation of even a few millimeters at the cut point can throw the entire rear section out of alignment and compromise the structural integrity of the finished vehicle. The documentation phase alone can take the better part of a full workday. Once the measurements are confirmed and the build plan is approved, the vehicle moves to the cut station. This is where the process becomes visceral in a way that shocks first-time visitors. A brand new Cadillac, fresh from the GM production line, is placed on a reinforced steel jig, and a team of technicians uses industrial plasma cutters and reciprocating saws to literally cut the vehicle in half. The cut is made in a location along the rocker panel and floor structure that has been calculated specifically for this model and this extension length. The sparks fly, the metal groans. And what was 30 seconds ago a complete automobile is now two separate sections sitting on a factory floor, connected by nothing but the wiring harness and the fuel lines that the technicians carefully left intact during the cut. What happens next is where the real engineering begins. A custom fabricated steel subframe built specifically for this vehicle and this extension is slid into the gap between the two halves of the car. This subframe is not off-the-shelf hardware. It is built in the facility's own fabrication shop from high-strength steel tubing, welded and gusseted according to engineering specifications that account for the additional weight of the interior build-out, the passenger load, and in the case of an armored vehicle, the extraordinary weight of bulletproof glass and ballistic panel inserts. The subframe is tacked into place, measured again with laser tools, adjusted, measured again, and only then fully welded. The welding process on a vehicle of this class is performed exclusively by certified welders with experience in structural automotive fabrication. Every single weld on the frame extension is visually inspected, and on armored builds, a significant percentage of welds are also subjected to non-destructive testing using ultrasonic or magnetic particle inspection methods. This is the standard applied to aircraft components and military vehicle frames. The reason is simple. A limousine that fails structurally at highway speed with 8 passengers inside is not just a product liability disaster. It is a catastrophic, potentially fatal event. The engineering team takes this responsibility with a seriousness that would surprise most automotive enthusiasts who assume the stretch limousine industry operates casually. Once the frame extension is welded and verified, the floor structure is rebuilt across the new section. This involves fabricating custom crossmembers, installing new floor pans, and routing the electrical, HVAC, and fuel systems through the extended section of the vehicle. On a $1 million build like this one, the HVAC system alone is an engineering project in its own right. The rear passenger compartment, which can stretch to 15 or even 18 feet in length, requires independent climate control with multiple zones, each adjustable by the passengers independently. The ductwork for this system has to be routed through a space that is simultaneously occupied by structural members, electrical conduit, audio system components, and in some cases, a central console that runs the full length of the passenger cabin. You imagined it was complicated, but did you imagine it was this complicated? Drop a comment below and tell us what surprised you most about the build process so far. Because we are not even halfway through this vehicle's transformation, and the gold application process, which is the most technically demanding and visually spectacular phase of the entire build, is still ahead. Right now, what you need to understand is that everything done to this point, every measurement, every weld, every inch of ductwork and wiring, is the invisible infrastructure that makes the final product possible. The gold is what people photograph, but the steel is what keeps them alive. With the framework complete and the structural inspection signed off, the build moves into the bodywork phase. This is where the visual character of the vehicle begins to take shape and where the level of craftsmanship required escalates dramatically. The extended roof section, which must now span the new length of the vehicle seamlessly, is fabricated from a combination of steel and composite materials. The steel provides the structural rigidity of the roof bows, while the composite skin panels are shaped to match the contour and character lines of the original Cadillac roofline exactly. This matching process is done by hand, using traditional coach builder skills that trace back to the era before computer-aided manufacturing existed in this industry. Skilled body technicians use English wheels, power hammers, and hand-forming tools to shape metal panels that flow from the original body sections into the extended center section without a visible break or a change in surface quality. On a lesser build, this transition is where you see waves in the metal, slight shadows in the paint, and inconsistencies that reveal the seam between factory and custom. On a million-dollar vehicle, those flaws are simply not acceptable. The body team works the metal until the transition is invisible, running their hands along the surface in strong raking light to feel for imperfections that the eye cannot detect. Anything short of perfect is ground back and reworked. The glass package on this vehicle is another chapter in itself. The rear passenger compartment windows are not standard automotive glass. They are multi-layer laminated assemblies that incorporate polycarbonate layers, thermally bonded together under controlled pressure and temperature conditions, producing a panel that can resist ballistic impact while still allowing passengers to see out clearly and exterior observers to appreciate the form of the vehicle. Each glass panel is custom cut to fit the specific geometry of the extended body section, and the installation process requires specialized tooling and adhesives rated for structural bonding applications. The wrong adhesive, applied incorrectly, and the glass panel becomes a projectile in a collision scenario rather than a protective barrier. And then, after all of the steel work, all of the glass, all of the mechanical and electrical systems are installed and tested, the vehicle enters the final and most visually stunning phase of its transformation. The gold application process on a vehicle of this caliber is not a wrap. It is not paint with metallic flake. On the highest specification builds, it involves a multi-stage process that begins with the application of a specialty base coat that is chemically formulated to bond with both the automotive primer beneath it and the metallic application above it. The gold material itself is applied in sheets or through a specialized spray deposition process, depending on the effect required and the specific areas of the vehicle being treated. Certain panels receive a physical vapor deposition treatment, a process borrowed from the aerospace and electronics industries, in which real gold is vaporized under vacuum conditions and deposited as an atomically thin layer onto a prepared surface. The result is a finish with a depth and luminosity that no paint or wrap can replicate, because the gold is not sitting on the surface. It is bonded to it at the molecular level. The panels treated this way are cured in a controlled temperature environment, inspected under specialized lighting, and only cleared for assembly once every square inch meets the aesthetic specification laid out in the original client brief. The interior, meanwhile, has been under construction in a separate part of the facility throughout the entire time the body and chassis work was happening. Master upholsterers, working from custom patterns developed specifically for this vehicle, are cutting and stitching leather, suede, and exotic trim materials to panels that will line every surface of the passenger compartment. The headliner is hand-stretched. The floor is built up in layers, starting with sound insulation, then structural flooring, then a finished hardwood or stone veneer surface, then custom carpet or matting at the passenger level. The wet bar assembly, which includes a refrigerator, glassware storage, and an ice compartment, is built as a self-contained unit and fitted to custom mounts in the passenger cabin. By the time this vehicle rolls out of the facility, it has consumed thousands of man-hours, millions of dollars in materials and labor, and the combined expertise of engineers, fabricators, body technicians, upholsterers, electricians, and finishing specialists. Every system is tested, every surface is inspected, every weld is certified, and the vehicle that began as an incomplete Cadillac shell is now one of the most exclusive automobiles on the surface of the planet. The $1 million Gold Cadillac Limousine is not a car. It is a statement about what human skill and industrial resources can produce when there is no compromise allowed and no budget ceiling in sight. Somewhere right now, one of these vehicles is being delivered to a client whose name you will never read in any newspaper. And the team that built it is already starting the next one. What part of this build process shocked you the most? Tell us in the comments right now, because we read every single one. And if you want to see inside the next forbidden factory, make sure you are subscribed with the bell turned on so you never miss a revelation.